Good morning. I am Mr. Jack, and welcome to Mr. Jack's Journey. I'm a professional chauffeur here in Nashville. I'll bet you some of your favorite country music stars, TV stars, and maybe movie stars have been in my back seat. I'm also a tour guide and a professional historian, and I like showing people how they can have the best Nashville experience possible. So today, we are out on the Natchez Trace. I'm looking for some adventure. I'm looking for a hiking trail. I'll not only teach you about the honky-tonks downtown and some of the restaurants and some of the sights downtown, but I'll also, if you let me, I'll get you out of town. I'll get you out here where the air is fresh, where you can smell the pine needles, where you can hear the crunch of leaves under your feet, and maybe even see a waterfall or two. So again, I am Mr. Jack. Welcome to Mr. Jack's Journey. The Natchez Trace, sometimes called the Old Natchez Trace, is a historic forest trail within the United States. It extends roughly 440 miles from Nashville, Tennessee to Natchez, Mississippi, and it links the Cumberland, Tennessee, and Mississippi rivers. It starts less than a mile from the Loveless Cafe, which is in the southwest corner of Davidson County, about 18 miles from downtown Nashville, and terminates around Natchez, Mississippi. Now, the good old boys from Mississippi say the opposite is true. It starts in Natchez and ends in Nashville, but that's open for friendly debate. The Natchez Trace was a major factor contributing to the development of our nation's interior. The vast network of trails was used by American Indians in prehistoric times and later as a road of commerce between many American Indian nations. The Natchez are Native American people who originally lived in the bluffs area of the lower Mississippi Valley near present-day Natchez, Mississippi. The trail is old. It's very old, 10,000 years old. What was going on 10,000 years ago? Well, most of the Earth's 5 million people were living a nomadic lifestyle, following the seasons, living in caves. Some were figuring out how to farm. The Mesopotamians were growing grains that could be stored, meaning it was not necessary to follow the growing seasons. They were also beginning to domesticate animals, meaning they didn't have to follow the hunt. Some people were beginning to settle down and live in more permanent type homes. Some chose to live close to other people, creating communities. The oldest is Jericho, about 10,000 years old. And archaeological evidence exists showing that the Natchez Trace was in use about that time too. Some interesting facts of the period. The wheel had not been invented. The Mesopotamians were growing barley and making beer. The first craftsmen, weavers, bread makers were just being born, and anyone reaching 40 years of age was considered old. Over the last few decades, engineers have been moving sections of the trace to make it more accessible to modern travel. But still, about 60 miles of hiking trails and self-guided nature walks can be found along the entire length of the Natchez Trace Parkway. There are several places where you can walk a preserved section of the old Natchez Trace. I've done that. And there are sections of the Natchez Trace that are set aside for horseback riding. Some of the trails that you will encounter are the Potcopinue. I think this is on the southern end of the trail. It's around Natchez, Mississippi. It's between mile markers 17 and 20, and it's the longest stretch of the old, what we call the Sunken Trace. Named for the Natchez Indian word meaning little valley, this trail has some embankments over 20 feet high. These were created by thousands of cane tucks who walked the trace each year in the late 1700s and early 1800s. Some of those cane tucks found refreshment from a spring bubbling from a rock at what is now Rocky Springs, Mississippi. Most had journeyed on, but some parked their wagons. They decided to call it home. So at mile marker 54 or 55, look for a historical marker for Rocky Springs. Once a thriving town of about 2,600, today no one lives there. It's known as a ghost town. There are multiple entries to the parkway, but on my southern fried tours, we often begin at the northern end, which is about 400 miles away from the ghost town at Rocky Springs. We start the day with the second best buttermilk biscuits in Nashville. The second best, you say? Yep, because I'm giving credit for the number one best biscuits to my wife of 40 years, Miss Sherry. So, we'll start at the Loveless Cafe. This is a Nashville landmark. And every day, the biscuit master, that's what she's called. There have only been 3 people who've ever made biscuits here. One was Mrs. Loveless. Before passing away, she taught the techniques to someone else. Well, that someone else just passed away, I think last year, maybe about a year and a half ago. But she passed on the technique and the recipe to the current biscuit master. All made by hand, 10,000 a day. About the time that you're seated at one of those many country tables in there, the server's going to set a plate of those biscuits right in front of you. They're served hot from the oven. They use real butter, homemade jam, and you can get country ham or your choice of many southern entrees on the menu. Now, after breakfast, we're going to waddle back to the tour vehicle and head on out to the Natchez Trace, which is just less than a mile away. Once we're on the trace, don't be surprised if you see a bicycle or 100 bicycles. This highway has a yield to bicycles attitude. Signs along the way will inform us that bicycles have not only the right of way, but they have the right to use the whole highway. Today I'm at the Natchez Trace. I'm at the place called Byrd Hollow, as Tennesseans would call it years ago, Byrd Holler. The views are absolutely breathtaking. Get a load of this. I'm headed back to the car. I'm going to get the drone. I want to get some aerial shots and share with you what this is like on the tours that we do here. I'm operating the camera and everything by myself today. But on the tours, this is often included. Oh, about a mile away from the Double Arch Bridge, we come to Timberland. We can get out and stretch our legs again here. This was a logging camp. The trees were cut down, loaded onto wagons. They were pulled by mules and horses. And the lumber was used to build the homes and the buildings in nearby Franklin, Tennessee. There is what appears to me to be an off-the-grid visitor center. I see solar panels. I'm sure they use that to store energy in batteries for their electricity. I've talked to them. They collect rainwater for irrigation. They have propane for a fireplace. There's a septic system there.
My family will tell you that I love to get lost because I never know what I'll find. Well, I might have done it. I don't know if you saw those signs back there, but I definitely just went in a circle. Close to the end of my journey, and you'll see I'm about to burst into the sunlight. Oh, and there's my truck at the top of the hill. I'm sweaty, tired, but exhilarated. I haven't done this in years and years. And I think I'm done for the day. Well, here I embark on the unknown. Kind of a muddy trail, a lot of horse poop. I did see that this is a major horse trail. So it looks like I've got about a half a mile to the overlook, maybe 2 miles total, look like by that sign. So let's give it a go. Too bad you can't smell what I smell. I'm not in the same shape I was in 20 or 30 years ago. When you come to Nashville, let's plan a trip out here. It appears to be a spring coming up right down there into the tiny little creek that it's made. There's no water up here where I am. It looks like it's just coming right about out of that log down there. wraps up this episode of Mr. Jack's Journey. I hope you enjoyed the Natchez Trace. We can make that part of your tour when you come down. All of my tours are custom. I never know what people want. I usually set a destination. That's where we know we'll end up, but so many things to see between here and there. For instance, on the Natchez Trace, we usually pull off and go to Leapers Fork. We'll go down to Franklin. We'll visit that for a while. But I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I just enjoy going out and doing those hikes and filming this for you. So if you liked it, please subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, a thumbs down if you didn't like it. Leave a comment. If there's something that you'd like to know about here in Nashville, I'd like to research it or go film it for you. If you're coming here and you need some help planning your vacation, that's why I'm here. So I think that's about it for now at Mr. Jack's Journey.